I'm Norm Hanson with Rockwood Church. I'm on the board there as well. Uh, Mainly our traffic is on Sundays, so we're not as, but we do get all that recognition. In fact, the traffic going on Merrill Hill Road and PT. And one of the first thoughts that I had was, born and raised on the farm, I understand where the Christophs are coming from. We have that road up closer to Green Lane and raising havoc with their field. And by putting it down to the north has the least amount of impact on the farmland. And it serves the need for the businesses that are there. And also would provide us, an access that way as well. And we do have people that attend the church from the north. I'll skip that, so.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
John Krukar, South 30 West 27568 Sunset Drive. I think out of all these options, one is missed that might work. To have the bypass exit for these businesses to the north is a great idea. But then end it before Green Lane. Leave Green Lane alone. No one will go through it then. It's no shortcut. The businesses have their great access from the bypass. And the people on Green Lane, there's some people that go in the subdivision, it takes 10 minutes to get to your house when you first pull off the road.
Just so I understand what you're saying, is to put a cul-de-sac between the businesses, put a cul-de-sac on Merrill Hill between the businesses and the entrance.
Exactly it. The
And then
only
put an
problem I
access road.
see is the entrance from the church. They have an entrance also on Green Lane. But I'm sure something could be figured out to either give them bigger access off of this proposed bypass exit so they can accommodate larger scale cars and just shut it down on Green Lane. And Green Lane can be used, you can get to it off of Sunset and Merrill Hills, or you can get off to it on Sunset at the other end. It'll die. No one will take it other than the people who run it, who live there.
Thank you. Next. Sure.
Where's your business?
Mine?
Yeah.
It's on the north side of the Green Lane, so if it is a proposal,
Having a hard time.
that'd be on the cul-de-sac at the railroad tracks, cul-de-sac at Green Lane, so the only access would be the short access from the bypass.
There were some folks at our meetings who had businesses along Green Lane,
Oh, the mud jackers.
and there was somebody who made cupcakes.
Yep, it's, there you go.
Yeah. I remember the cupcake lady. Yeah.
Right, you gotta chip into it.
Would an idea like that, where you basically kind of cul-de-sac Merrill Hills Road right at the church? I think that's what we're going up doing. So you just, well, that's right. It would affect your access for your business folks. You'd have to come in off Merrill Hills Road, right?
Yeah, the way I understand these things, you either have to go to D, because you wouldn't do anything with Green Lane.
You wouldn't have to.
So you would either have to go down to D, or you would have to go to TT and from, no, you would have to go to D, right? You would have a choice.
Well,
No, you'd be able to come north on Merrill Hills Road and turn onto Green Lane.
Merrill Hills or
Yeah.
Sunset.
Okay, like now, like it is now.
So,
But-
so what I think the gentleman was saying is, if we were able to move the access to the
Right.
cul-de-sac in here,
Yep.
right, in here, so that the businesses can get in and out on here, and maybe do something for the church. Right. So people coming out of Green Lane, couldn't get access northbound on the bypass. They'd have to come down, at this location, they have to come down to the existing intersection and back to the new intersection.
Well,
Okay, hang on. We're gonna kind of, okay, go ahead.
And
And I have a question for the cupcake lady.
Sure.
If she wants it, go
Do you
ahead.
have a storefront?
No, I do not have a storefront, but my customers come to pick up. And right now, sometimes they can't even go straight for 4 miles. If I've got to send them down and around and back and around,
You have good
they're good
cupcakes?
stuff. I've been doing
I
it
think
for
they
30
would make a
years.
riddle to get there.
You didn't make it really difficult for them. Like I said, some people, I have people that come from, North Milwaukee, Kenosha, from all over. If you don't make it easy, they're gonna go someplace else.
Okay, who's next? Yes, sir.
My name's Greg Renarius, it's my wife Julie. We live on South 29 West 27235 Green Lane. Across from the country. By the way, I'm prejudiced, I like your kids better. But anyway, I think I go along with Mr. Christoph and Mr. Hartman, and we're also moving access to the bypass north, Green Lane. But I really believe that one end of Green Lane should be shut off, and it should be the west end. If you make it a one-way, you're cutting half the traffic to get on the bypass, but what about the other half that's coming on? And right now, with Mr. Watsky's count, I think it's actually went up. So and with all the kids that have families that have came and started to live on Green Lane, they're looking for a fatality, and it's gonna happen. There are numerous times, I think everybody here that lives on Green Lane, just pulling onto your driveway is a frightening experience. And people do not respect that speed limit. You have a dangerous curve further west. The road is it's not wide, and it's bumpy, and you have multiple driveways that are hidden from the traffic that use it. So by the time you pull out, bam, the car's on you. So in my opinion, it has to be closed off alone. And the access should be moved down to the north end, in front of those businesses, to give them better access, give them what they want, give the Christophs what they want. And the further you move it too, if you do keep one end of Green Lane open, the further you gotta go down and jog, and then take a right, rather a right and a left. That'll make people think twice too. Distance is what is important. If you keep it closer to a straight line, people are gonna take it straight.
Is it a fair representation of the room that most concerns would be satisfied if the access was moved to the north and a cul-de-sac was put on the west end of Green Lane?
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
Where would the cul-de-sac be?
I don't know. I'm not a traffic engineer, so I can't answer that question. I'm trying to get a consensus and an understanding of the feeling of the room.
In retrospect, it would only have to be past the last driveway on the road, right?
I couldn't even venture. First of all, I don't live in the area. You talked about it, before the meeting with me. And, so those, but I'm trying to get an understanding if the fears of the room and the concerns of the room are addressed by virtually everyone with that solution, then I guess it's the town board's responsibility to see if that's truly a feasible solution.
I like the idea.
Okay. Yes, sir.
You talked about the traffic being cut in half. If you put the cul-de-sac there, really the only traffic is how gonna get to the traffic that lives on Green.
Yeah, he's talking about the one-way. If you did a one-way cut.
Referencing the cul-de-sac. With the cul-de-sac, then people are gonna travel and people are gonna leave.
The only people that makes it.
Okay, who would like to go next? Go ahead.
I was at that meeting and I'm very much concerned about, having one of the.
Name and address, please.
Angie Van Zock, South 51, West 25375 Road. One of the reasons we considered the one-way initially before putting cul-de-sac in, was for fire safety. We've got a very small area there for fire trucks, for police, fire, and some narrow areas, and that cul-de-sac is gonna have to be a good-sized cul-de-sac, because whatever emergency vehicles and fire department vehicles that need to come through there, have to be able to then turn around. And so I think part of the discussion was to maybe do it one way initially, how it goes, to solve the problem, because again, you're cutting half the traffic. This is a great idea with having, now not having the bridge and being able to move that, you know, connect their point further more to help the businesses that wasn't able to do it as an option. But I just want to say that was part of the thought process, is you want to be sure that you can get emergency vehicles in there, so that they can come back out. So that cul-de-sac, however you end up designing it, is going to take someone's time to be able to turn around and.
Can I make a comment on that?
Please.
One, in other parts of the country, one of the things I've seen with cul-de-sacs is actually, it's a cul-de-sac, and that one would be up at the, right up at Sunset, should it be there, or wherever. They have an actual fire gate, or a gate that, if there is an emergency vehicle, would have access to open that, get through that area. So I would think we kind of eliminate the emergency vehicle.
Instead of full home.
Well, if
There you
the
go.
residents of Green Lane
See how
benefit
bad
from
people
that,
really
financial worth of that, maybe we can talk, but.
I want to, I guess, pose a question just for thought, considering the possibility of a cul-de-sac were put in the relative vicinity of the church or what or not, so there would not be a connection between Merrill Hills Road and Green Lane, then if that were to happen and there's no connection of Green Lane directly to the bypass, if that were to happen, I would think that would cut down traffic on Green Lane dramatically. Why would there be a need to do anything with cul-de-sacing Green Lane or one-waying it? I mean, who would go down Green Lane other than people who live there or have a business? Yep, go ahead.
Customers.
Okay, how many customers a day do you have?
I can have a couple dozen a week. I mean, it's not huge, but
Okay.
it's enough to support me.
Well, I understand that. And well, I guess you can speak to the issue. You don't like the idea of cul-de-sacing Merrill Hills. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but speak to it.
Go east down Sunset and get off and backtrack all the way around.
So not trying to put words in your mouth, that would be beneficial to the church and two businesses, not desirable or beneficial to you at all. Is that fairly your point of view?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Not desirable to you. I would rather have it down on the west end. I would rather have that end of Green Lane closed. For me to come all the way around. Not to speak for the nutjackers, but I would think that they would probably, yeah, the west end of business owners as well, because they have large equipment, and you go down, over, and back.
I understand.
This gentleman came up with a perfect idea situation anyway about emergency access and everything. They got the end of the cul-de-sac. Put it there, gives her the access she needs. They get what they want. It's a win-win all the way across the board. Nobody's unhappy.
I'm not sure. You're
Well,
not
there
happy,
would
are
be,
you?
might be one issue because I get deliveries. So they would need to be able to turn around.
Is it semi?
Do your deliveries now not turn around? Is
No,
that it?
they go up Sunset.
Okay, so they come in which
They
way?
come in off of Merrill Hills and then they exit.
So they're going west, southwest, if you will, and they do not turn around. They go on through. Okay, thank you. Who's next? Anybody, somebody who hasn't spoken or hasn't spoken more than 3 times? Go ahead.
This is in regards to the access road. If you're going to move it to the north and you're not gonna have a bypass, no, the track. That's what's proposed now?
Just to upgrade.
Or no bridge yet. Well, then I'm in favor of, I'd like to have it moved all the way down, though, because if you still keep it up, we're gonna have a worthless piece of land down there, a little diamond shape too. So
Other board members or anything want to get into the conversation?
Just a question on if we do have access, whether it's at Green Lane or Green Lane or farther north, is that a traffic control intersection?
No.
No?
Hang on just a minute, folks. I don't mean to interrupt you, but we want to kind of let everybody hear the questions and answers. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. It would not be a traffic control.
No. It just would not meet the standard of the warrants needed for signal.
Why don't you just run the question and the answer back one more time so everybody
The
gets it?
question is, would a green lane connection to the bypass be signalized? I think that's what you're asking.
Right.
And the answer is no, it wouldn't.
I've got, I guess, a follow-up question I'd like to ask of that. If that, regardless of where it would be connected, whether it's in alignment with Green Lane, offset to the north or offset to the south, I guess I'd like to know from some of the transportation people what the perspective of that would be in terms of vehicular safety at that intersection. Does that make that the bypass and that connecting intersection less safe than if it is not there?
I'm sorry, are you saying that if you introduce an intersection, you're introducing a safety hazard?
That's the essence of my question.
The answer is always yes. I mean, obviously, every time you introduce a side road, driveway, any kind of connection to a highway, you are inherently making it less safe. But, that's obviously the roadway that has no connections to it whatsoever is far safer than one that has a lot, so.
Is there any design requirement or standard for an offset distance from a connecting road such as that from the railroad crossing? Is there a requirement for that anybody knows?
Well, although Green Lane could be located and, there's probably a range that it could move, as far as there would be a restriction as how close it could get to the railroad, not necessarily for the railroad, but because there would be a right turn lane required. And so that would have to be introduced after the railroad tracks. And so we would want that full right turn lane to be able to be accommodated before the intersection. So we would have to look at how close to the railroad that could get. Another point I want to bring up is wherever the access may be located, the property to the east of the bypass, that would be where the access to that property would be required. Right. We would not allow another access at a different location.
Did everybody understand what he just explained? Do it one more time, or maybe you can illustrate on the drawing.
Yeah, if we do look at an offset intersection to the north, and I think the double digits of the right turn lane would probably be about 200 feet. So the closest we could get to the railroad track is a little less than 200 feet.
Plus a taper.
Plus the bigger.
And you-
Say 300 feet.
Yeah.
So, but what Doug's saying is right now, currently under this alternative, well, there would be a good entrance to access the other track. But if there's a development that goes in here at some time in the future, any access for that development would be directly across from this road. So the same would hold true if we put the road in, that access point would be directly across from this. And not anywhere else.
Did everybody understand what he explained? No? You want to do it one more time?
Okay.
Did I not give a better way? Oh, is that what you couldn't hear me? I'm sorry. So currently, if an access to the east side of the new county highway or new west bypass were to be required, if there's a development or residential parcel or something that would go on the east side, that access point would have to be directly across from this connection, whether it be south of the existing intersection of Green Lane and TT or north. So where this is located, any access to the east side of the road would be controlled by the location of this connector. So you push it north and the access on the east side gets pushed north.
Yes, sir.
Where the access be to Sunset? The access to Sunset. Off of Green Lane? No, for, on the bypass. Oh, there's a new intersection will be built where existing Sunset stays on its current alignment. We build a new intersection where the bypass would cross Sunset. It's to the, yeah. Yeah, well, between the bridge and the existing intersection.
West of Hill Street, yes.
Yes.
Okay, more questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Quick one, you mentioned, May 14th, next board meeting may possibly come up for that.
Yes, sir.
Will there be the same notice, if that makes the agenda, would it be the same notice sent out to the residents? Or is it kind of best to watch the website?
And we'll look to Clerk Nicholas. I don't think we'll send a separate notice of that. Am I correct on that? But encourage you to, I mean, the best source of that is to look at the town's website online. If not, I'm sure the clerk is always willing to take phone calls, right?
And the agenda is typically posted the Friday before the meeting.
And,
You look on Saturday or something like that, it'll usually the phone agenda.
our website also allows you to, get an email notification. So whenever we post our town board, so you just have to go on to the, website, go into agendas and, into the document center where the agendas are, and then, do an email notification with your email address in, and then whenever we post to that area, you'll get a notice to your email.
I've got a question I want to do, like, diagram.
Sure.
The new connector road, Green Lane, between Merrill Hills Road and the proposed bypass would be a town road, is that correct? Correct. That would be part of the bypass project, cost of putting it in initially. Correct. Okay, then you would turn back Merrill Hills Road through the town from Madison Street to Merrill Hills Road. And then it's gonna be dead end on each side of the railroad track, right?
Yeah, build the railroad tracks to stop the people there.
Okay, so that's over a mile road in town is being there. And then it's gonna gain back. Is Sunset Drive still gonna be a county road all the way through, or does that part of that go back to the town too?
It's gonna be a county road, it might be getting paid.
Oh, so the town sees.
The operable word was might, right?
You'll see a big gap in the middle, we're gonna leave out the bypass.
No, twice. The summation of my question is, how many miles of road is the town gonna end up with as far as maintenance? Even though you got a new road, at some point in time, there's maintenance involved. So we're to the town of Waukee, so it's gaining 1.5 miles to 2 miles of road to take care of it.
Something in there.
Okay, good.
Would you like me to ask them if they'll repave Green Lane at their expense or not? Should we try that question?
Right, they have to maybe put the cul-de-sac together and grind it. Take it right down, take the base out, do the job right, not the end job.
Well, if you're gonna save you, you're on traffic counting, I'm easy.
Give me the money.
I'm sure he'd be happy to do the work and still pay the bill.
Well, you know, I guess I mean, seriously, we actually do have to enter the jurisdiction transfer agreement. But none of these things are happening overnight.
And I assure you all of those things have entered my mind.
That we have a negotiation, I'm sure. Well, we were,
Anyone you tell people that wanna walk, or the county people walk Green Lane, walk it from one end together and see what that takes in the city. For instance, here, a week ago, we had fully loaded hot axle dump truck, eliminate the two truck traffic, which really isn't that great, but it would limit. So the way I see it, you're gonna have to fix it up and maintain it if you want it to be a connector road. If you want it to be a county road, that's how it's done. It's better do the job right.
Question, if I could, a technical one, but if there were a connection of Green Lane either in alignment north or south of where it is now to the bypass, what is the right of way width that you would be looking to acquire to do that through the Christoph Farm? Is there a standard for that?
I'm not sure if it's standard, but I think town roads are full of.
Yes?
What does it cost a mile of, narrow coast road, let's say? A mile of road, redo it, and affect roads or something. What does that cost, on average?
Well, it kind of depends on the treatment use. You know, if you-
What would you anticipate, I guess? I mean, there was a discussion we had at the time.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, to put in a mile, $1 million? I mean,
Are you talking brand new roadway or you sub?
updated, because, I mean, now, those roads have been, they're not ideal.
Build,
Towns,
well, build a brand new two-lane highway. But, you know, up to our standards, but they're, two-lane rural highway. Now, there's no way. The typical resurfacing or repaving, that is in the, depending on what treatment you use, $200,000.
Depending upon what the staff said, when the town sees it, it was their responsibility then to maintain. That's a concern that we put on it. And Green Lane being updated, I think it's a great idea for us to go through. Green Lane is definitely. Well, Bureau Hill Road, Green Lane, any road that we're taking, perfect shape. That's it.
Well, some
The
taxpayers.
taxpayer's gonna pay for it, the question
Which
is which
taxpayer?
taxpayer?
Paying for it, the county road.
I suspect if you talk to the taxpayer up in Heartland, he'd feel a little different.
Yes.
I got a question on the county road right away, aren't they all 66 feet wide and county?
You go back, you have to go back and look at the county road records, just a hint. There's all about this stuff, but you'll find that some roads are laid out at free rod,
Supposed to be rounded the whole road.
yeah, well, a lot of the county highways that we have, and some of the town roads too, were laid out by the old town board back in the 1800s. And some of them were laid out as green rock roads, some of them are four roads, blue rock roads out there. By modern standards, I mean, minimum typically is 66 feet that we build a road to. Typically, most of our highways these days will find 100 feet on it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I purchased the property with a garage and built on Merrill Hills Road from Mr. Hartman's father. It had 300 feet in front. And when Mr. Hartman sold it to me, he had to dedicate the difference between the old right of way of 66 feet and the new proposed right of way of 100. He had to dedicate that. So, isn't it correct that anytime a certified survey comes through, that that's the action that is taken? That's true.
And if you look at, when you actually look at a map and look at where the property lines are, out, actually to the middle of the road, you can see the King's Terrace is a perfect example. The way the property line angles away in the intersection, it perfectly follows the future alignment of the bypass.
King Terrace is also a 5-mile long cul-de-sac.
Okay, anyone who has not had an opportunity to speak tonight? Anybody who'd like to speak who hasn't spoken yet? I know most folks who participated? Want to give everybody a chance? I'm sorry. Please. And one last time, your name and address, please.
Gloria Arnson, W271, S3057, Narrow Hills Road.
Okay, thank you. All right, do you understand the answer to the question? Or you want to have him go through it one more time? Okay, why don't you grab the microphone if you would just go through that for her, please.
You live between the railroad tracks and Sunset, man? I don't think so. Can you hear me? Okay, yes, Merrill Hills Road will be dead-ended at the railroad tracks. From both sides. So, at least on traffic out in front of your house will be a lot quieter than it is right now. You would certainly have that opportunity, yes. If the town board decided to ask us to build it.
So where you live, you get on, if the bypass is there, it would be easier to get on the Sunset Drive and get on the bypass because it would be a controlled intersection. Whereas if you took a new proposed green lane connector road, that wouldn't be a controlled intersection. You'd have to cross 2 lanes of southbound traffic to go north. An accident looking for a place to happen.
Just so we're on the same page, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking about a controlled intersection. You're talking about stoplights, a signaled intersection at the bypass and at Sunset, correct? And it was a question asked, but any connection to Green Lane Extended would not be controlled, would not be signalized? Is that correct? And I think just even so people get the full grasp of that, the next signalized intersection north would be Madison, and the one to the south would be the connection with Genesee, Salesville Road, the rest of the bypass. So those are what they're contemplating as signalized intersections at this point in time. Kane Terrace would not be signalized either, is that correct? Okay, who's next? Please, name and address.
Betsy Mathis, West 271. So we're right on the corner of Yarrow Hills and Sunset. Is that going to remain as the intersection as it is now?
Want to talk to the
Microphone and address that question, please. Maybe just even repeat the question so everybody heard it.
You're asking, I'm sorry.
What's going to happen to the intersection of Yarrow Hills and Sunset as it is now?
Well, obviously the intersection is going to stay. I think what we haven't decided is whether or not we would take the signal out or whether it would stay
Why did you take the signal?
because it's no longer warranted.
Less traffic on that, with that.
Correct.
Who makes that decision?
We will, the county.
So that's gonna be, Connie's gonna make that decision?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, traffic signals are, it's kind of a bit of a fallacy to an extent that you build traffic signals for safety reasons. That is one of the warrants. But typically traffic signals are built because of traffic volumes. And so if the traffic volumes along Merrill Hills Road are going to drop right off, which we anticipate they will, then you have to question the need for the signal.
Thank you. Okay, other questions, comments? Sure, go ahead.
Back to a cul-de-sac, what is the minimum size that round dead end has to be?
believe when we met with the residents, I think the town has an ordinance on that. I think the minimum radius is 45 feet, if I'm not mistaken, 45 feet,
Okay,
a 45-foot diameter.
with that 45 feet, does that meet the fire chief's requirement for turning this stuff around?
That's what the ordinance is about.
Okay, so if it was 45 feet, you wouldn't need the gate and the drive going to Sunset if the proposal was a dead end green lane at the west. Is that fact?
That sounds right.
Just hang on for a minute, though. Understand that is only the pavement part of it, I believe, correct?
Right,
That's only the pavement. That's not the entirety of the diameter, if you will.
I understand, but it
Sure.
gives you a good idea of what's needed size-wise.
Just to address his question for Tommy, you may want to leave the fire being there because it's an emergency towards the west end, you might want to put their access. So have that as an emergency access to the emergency vehicle only. You don't have to do anything on the roof or anything, or the rest of it is there. It makes sense to me.
Anybody else? If not, we'll soon conclude. Well, everybody's thinking of the last question. I mean, I think town board certainly appreciates all of the interest, the time that you've all put, some very good ideas, discussion. Appreciate, again, your effort to do that. Please do follow on with the town website and so forth for putting this on the agenda. Go ahead.
Yeah, one more question. What access are we gonna get to cross the bypass towards the land and go across? Is there anything, rule of thumb or? You just can't just go busy highway, just driving across and tractor something across. I mean, what are they gonna do?
Do we have a median opening close to that area? Or it's probably where the extension is shown right now. There would be a field entrance created to access the property.
Yeah.
And if there's an extension, it would line up with that extension.
Right.
Green Lane thing.
right.
Kurt, could
I
you,
think what Doug was also saying is they'd have a meeting, say if nothing got built, if they didn't extend Green Lane out,
Yeah.
you would probably have a median opening with a field entrance both sides to get your equipment across.
Do they have any say where it goes? Do they have spot in mind where it's going or?
No, I don't think we have a spot located, but yeah, there could be some discussion on that.
Kurt, could you maybe just briefly describe what a cross-section through the bypass would look at there? This would have the bike path on the east side, is that correct? I mean, can you just a little bit describe what that looks like in terms of widths and sizes and so forth, please?
You can see it better on this exhibit. So the bypass itself will have 2 through lanes in each direction, northbound, southbound, 2 12-foot lanes. So 24 feet of pavement northbound, 24 feet of pavement southbound, 10-foot shoulder on each side of the road. In addition to that, there will be we've got turn lanes and things here, but there'll be a 30-foot raised grass median in between the 4 lanes of traffic. And then in this particular location, we are extending the bike path from the north end of the project, from the city Waukesha portion down through. And the 10-foot bike path will be on the east side of the new bypass, and it'll connect and stop at Sunset Drive.
Okay, any other questions?
So the bike path going to the Christoph Park, Ryan Christoph, that's 270 South Bend.
It does.
Yes.
You get nothing about this bike that will.
It's always been shown on the east side, just the east side, not the new west side of the road, down to Sunset, from Sunset all the way north. Yeah, it's not on the west side, just the east side.
And what's the total right of way width?
Well, we're looking at a nominal 200-foot total, 100-foot on each side of the center line through the corridor, but there are areas where we're going to probably need additional right-of-way for sloping and ditching and matching back into people's front yards and things like that. So.
Okay, thank you. Another question over here?
How is that bike path gonna connect to the bike trail?
Yeah, that's not shown on this exhibit, but we've got an exhibit. No, because those are older and that shows the overpass, so we didn't have to worry about it. They would have been coming off the cul-de-sacs basically of existing TT. But it's kind of confusing configuration because now with the at-grade crossing, it makes access to the bike path more difficult because they're also proposing on taking the bike path and putting it under the new bypass. So there's going to be a box culvert basically going under the new Waukesha bypass. And then there's going to be connections off of the bypass roadway onto that via offset little trails hooking onto the existing trail on either side of where that box culvert will be. So that there'll be at-grade access for bikes and pedestrians to get to that trail. Well, you'll still have the opportunity to, continue on the bypass. But there'll be separate accesses points to the trail from the bypass or from the newly cul-de-sac at the north end here, just south of the railroad tracks. There'll be an access point off the cul-de-sacs as well.
But is that on the bypass website, that drawing that shows the location of that culvert and the access?
No, because we haven't added new exhibits to that bypass website since we took away the overpass over the track.
A lot of that stuff is developing as we speak. Yeah. Can I ask another question regarding the overpass? Approximately given in relation to like the railroad tracks and Pebble Creek, where we think about the culvert or the under.
The new underpass is going to be on the existing alignment of that bike trail. It's going to be the same location. Yeah, we have no room to try to realign the main trail itself. We have the railroad tracks just to the south and we have the river just to the north. So it stays on its same alignment, but just putting a box culvert under the new bypass roadway.
Why do they put these bike paths on a road like this? If anyone knows when they've taken the bypass, we're gonna end up connected. How many bicycles do you you'd be risking your life. I mean, what regulation of what? This seems like a waste of resources.
Well, firsthand experience, I see kids biking from the private school just to the north. I've seen, it must be for their gym class, they're riding their bikes right there on the edge of TT to get to the trail here.
I understand.
But the trail itself, you'd have to talk to the DNR who maintains it, but there's quite a bit of bike traffic on that trail.
I'm talking about the regular bypass. You're gonna have a trail right along the new bypass?
Well, there'll be a separation. There'll be a ditch or a curb and gutter and terrace separation. It's not going to be, there's the opportunity for bicyclists to ride on the shoulder as well. But the bike trail itself, the recreational trail we call it, is going to be separated from the roadway. And I'm not sure the exact, it's about 15 foot.
It'll
border.
look a little bit like the bike path does North Highway 18,
Yeah.
where it's separated from the roadway. But federal and state regulations these days mandate you
Yeah.
to consider these things.
I have one last question, a technical one, but is there any possibility that we could sweet talk you into leaving those drawings behind until we meet as a town board and decide on a preference?
You'd be amazed what we do for beer.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Other questions from any? If not, we will let one more go.
Do you think the disc or whatever could be available for all of us to have a view at those different options?
Put them online? You mean, or what?
Offer something?
Can we put PDFs?
Yep, I have PDF files.
Oh, that makes it easy.
So it sounds like that could be done.
Good. Send this to you, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we're adjourned. Again, I want to thank you very much all for coming and spending an hour and 20-some minutes. It was, I think, very informative and useful to all of us. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.
Welcome.